Hey folks, and welcome to Easy Brewing Video Part 2. This is a recycled video from long ago that maybe you haven't seen and deserves a second chance. This particular video is the very first one I put on YouTube, and it's one of my earliest home brewing experiences doing extract brewing on a stovetop. And the reason this came about was through a discussion with a coworker at the radio stations that we worked at, who was very interested in home brewing, but because of our air shifts, we weren't able to get together and have me show him directly at my house. So I decided to make a little video, put on YouTube where he could watch and see what making beer was all about. Now this is crude. It's my first videotaping attempt ever. It's missing some parts that I didn't tape. It's got some erroneous information that I have changed my mind on, but it's worth taking a look at.
Hey, check it out. It's my beer in a box.
Old beer.
So why do we put hops in our beer anyway? What do hops do? Well, hops do different things depending on how long they're left in the boil. Hops contain alpha acids, and these alpha acids, the longer they're boiled, release a bitterness, which is important to counteract and balance the sweetness of the malt extracts that we put in. Hops also contain aroma and they contain flavor, but those characteristics are driven off rather quickly in the boil. If you want a lot of hop flavor, only put in your hops in the last 30 minutes or last 20 minutes of the boil. If you want a lot of hop aroma, throw it in near the end. Now you may be asking yourself, should you put the lid on during this boil process? The answer is no. There are proteins in here that you want to drive off. If you have a lid on there, they're just going to condense on the lid and fall back into your beer, causing some off flavors that you're not going to like. Now our timer is about to go off, and then we'll add our finishing hops. And this is what they call finishing hops. It will add some flavor and a little bit of aroma. We're going to reset the timer for 5 minutes, and then the boil is over. There, it's done. The cooking part is over. Now I'm going to move this hot kettle over to a sink full of cold water, and we'll cool the wort. That, by the way, is what this is called before it's actually beer. It's not beer until the yeast is added and the alcohol has been formed. Right now it's called wort, W-O-R-T, and it needs to cool as rapidly as possible before any other organisms or bacteria or stray wild yeasts can settle into it. So we're going to cool this down, and next step is coming right up. Alright, here we are with our next easy step in making beer. We're boiling more water. This is as difficult as it gets, folks. We're going to boil some water for about 15 minutes to sanitize, sterilize the water in case there's any microorganisms in there. Then we'll let it cool to about room temperature and add our yeast. And we'll let the yeast sit in there for 5 or 10 minutes or so, just to kind of activate, just like you would with making bread. You have to activate the yeast. You have to activate beer yeast too. Okay, our wort is cool. It's almost time to transfer to the fermenter. There's one more thing I want to do. There's some sediment left in here. The hops, some of the grain husks, a little bit of the malt extract has left behind some residues which are in the liquid, in the wort. Well, we want to get those out. On the Samuel Adams Brewery website, there is a video showing how to make homebrew beer. And one of the things that they show is to stir this and create a whirlpool. That will cause the sediments to collect in the center of the pot and form a little inverted cone. That leaves the edges of the pot clear that you can either siphon from or with a ladle gently scoop out. So we're going to try this, let it set for about 10 minutes while that whirlpool does its thing. I'll get my siphon ready and we'll transfer the wort into the ferment. All right, while that whirlpool is doing its job, I've got a confession to make. Remember that fermentation bucket I showed you during the equipment section? That was actually my bottling bucket. My fermenter is working right now. It's got a stout in it, and if you let me get the camera, I'll go show it to you. All right, here it is, behind door number 1. It's my fermentation bucket, and instead of an airlock, like I showed you during the equipment section, I've got what's called a blow-off tube, which basically does the same thing. It lets the escaping CO2 out of the bucket. The end of the hose goes into that water where the bubbles escape from the CO2, but nothing else can get back in the system and infect the beer. Let's see if there's any activity still going on in there. There, see that? A couple of bubbles? That's carbon dioxide escaping from the beer. Now, since this fermenter is still working and is going to be tied up for another week, I'm going to use a glass carboy. Let me show you what that looks like. There we go. That's 6.5 gallons. We'll put the wort in there and we'll use that for our fermentation vessel. All right, now this is going to be a little tricky, both getting it all in the frame and accomplishing by myself getting the siphon started. But I'm going to try to get a little help with my spring clamp to hold one end of the auto siphon tube while I put the other end in the boil kettle with the cooled wort. And I pump it once, twice. And there we go. Now, we've got the siphon going. Hopefully our trube or sediment has collected in a nice little cone in the middle due to our whirlpool efforts. I'm keeping the end of the siphon tube pressed against the edge of the container, and I'm not really touching the bottom either. Trying to keep as much of the sediment out as possible. All right, I'm going to top this off with a little more water. And there. You know what? I don't know how much is in here. It's about 5 gallons. I'm not going to get into exact measurements. Some people are all worried about figures and measurements and doing things precisely. With beer, it often just doesn't matter. It's going to be beer at the end. It may not be the exact precise style and flavor of beer that you wanted, but it's going to be beer. It's going to be pretty good beer. You can make really good beers with extracts. You can get into all grain brewing if you want to, but you can make pretty gosh darn good beers with extracts. And you can spend a lot of time experimenting with extracts, trying different yeasts, different hops, adding your own specialty grains, but still using the malt extract dry and liquid form and make pretty good beer. So, the next step is to pitch our yeast and then set it and forget it. Let's go. Oh, it's still recording, damn it. Alright, we're pitching the yeast, which is no great mystery. You recall that we boiled some water. We let it cool. Once it cooled, we put the yeast, the dry packaged yeast, inside here and just let it activate for about 5 minutes or so. Actually more like 15. Let's swirl it around a little bit. Put our airlock on. A little bit of water in there. And this is ready to put aside and let ferment somewhere. Now, we still have bottling to go. We could do that in about a week to 10 days or so. I don't think I'm going to do a show on bottling because it's not all that interesting and there's not a lot to it. You just boil water and boil the priming sugar. Again, there's that phrase, boiling water. That's how everything starts. You boil water, you dissolve this, you let it cool, you stir it gently into the beer, you transfer the beer in the bottles, and then you cap the bottles with caps, and that's all there is to it. So bottling is not all that exciting. So I think we're probably going to skip it. This is done. This is our red ale, our beer in a box, our introduction to extract brewing made easy. Hope it made sense to you.
Cold beer.
Boiling the water isn't the hard part. Opening the can isn't the hard part of making beer. The hard part of making beer is waiting.
Well,